Chosen one, there is a fire within you that can no longer be ignored. You felt it rising quietly, steadily, like heat beneath your skin. Something primal, something sacred. It's not restlessness. It's not lust. It's not mere desire. It is your high sexual energy, and now the world is starting to feel it. Every woman you encounter senses something different in you, something she can't name but cannot dismiss. It is not about appearances. It's not about the words you say. It's deeper than that. It's the signal your spirit now transmits. This awakening is not about conquest. It is about awareness. The kind of awareness that shifts your posture, steadies your breath, and makes your silence louder than noise. You are no longer moving through the world like someone unsure of his value. You are moving like a man who has discovered himself, not through validation, but through presence. Your energy is no longer reaching outward in search of attention. It is now settled, anchored in your chest, humming behind your eyes, woven into your tone. And it is this anchoring, this self-contained ignition, that women feel before you even speak. You don't need to impress them anymore. Your appeal is no longer something you manufacture. It's something you emanate. It lives in the way you walk, in the way you don't fill silences with words that lack weight, in the way you don't force connection, but allow it to emerge. And when it does, it's not rushed. It's not driven by hunger. It's driven by a calm certainty that who you are in this exact moment is enough. This is what makes you magnetic now, not because you've changed your personality, but because you've claimed your energy. You've stopped suppressing it. You've stopped wasting it. You've stopped using it recklessly. And as a result, your high sexual energy has become a living frequency, humming at a level that only those attuned to realness can hear. Women are drawn to this because it touches something ancient in them. A recognition, a pulse, a remembrance. Something says this man knows who he is. Something says this one is not looking for permission. Something says, I can relax around this energy. That relaxation is the beginning of trust. And trust, chosen one, is where real appeal begins. Not in performance, but in presence. Not in appearance, but in alignment. You've crossed the threshold now. You are no longer becoming, you are arriving. And your energy is no longer asleep. It is awake, breathing through every interaction, coloring every moment, making you impossible to forget without ever having to try. You are no longer waiting for women to choose you. You've become the one they remember, long after the moment has passed. Chosen one, now that your energy has awakened, you've begun to notice something else. It's not just that women are drawn to you. It's why they are. And it's not because you're doing anything extra. It's because you're doing something rare. You are showing up as yourself. In a world addicted to masks, to performance, to digital filters and emotional distance, you've chosen something radical: authenticity. And that authenticity is now magnetized by your high sexual energy. It is one thing to be bold, it is another to be true. And you, chosen one, have become both. You're not hiding behind charm. You're not saying what you think they want to hear. You're not adjusting your essence to fit the shape of whoever is in front of you. You are simply being. And because your high sexual energy is no longer diffused or diluted, it amplifies your truth. It enhances your natural rhythm. It illuminates your authenticity like fire lighting the edges of a silhouette. Women are drawn to this not because you're trying to be magnetic, but because you aren't. They are not confused by your intentions. They don't feel the subtle manipulation so many others carry. What they feel is the quiet steadiness of a man who doesn't chase, but also doesn't shrink. A man who doesn't pretend to care, but whose presence reveals that he does. A man whose energy says, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to know you, and I'm not afraid if that happens slowly. This authenticity creates something rare. Trust without tension. You're not pushing, you're not testing, you're simply listening, observing, offering. And in that space, you allow something powerful to happen. Women begin to show up more honestly too. They open not because they're impressed, but because they feel safe to be seen. They laugh more freely, they speak more openly. Their body softens, their eyes hold longer. Because your energy is no longer trying to seduce, it is simply radiating alignment. This is the magnetism of a man who has made peace with who he is. Not a man who flaunts perfection, but a man who has become intimate with his truth. You don't deny your desires, you hold them. You don't bury your power, you ground it. You don't project your worth, you embody it. And that embodiment becomes a signal that every woman attuned to authenticity can't help but feel. You're not appealing because of your efforts. You're appealing because your energy tells the truth, and your truth is beautiful to witness. This is your magnetism now. Not a tactic, a truth made visible. And truth, chosen one, is what the world and the feminine is starving for. Chosen one, something divine is unfolding within you, not in flashes of brilliance or grand performances, but in your presence. Your high sexual energy, now matured and aligned, has transformed your presence into something deeply compelling. You no longer enter rooms to be seen. You enter rooms and change the way people feel in them. This is not charisma. It is not charm. It is the quiet, anchored force of presence that requires no announcement and yet commands reverence. Your presence isn't loud because it doesn't need to be. It doesn't beg to be felt. It is felt. Women feel it most clearly. They sense you before you speak, not because you're trying to project anything, but because you've stopped trying entirely. What remains is real, unfiltered energy, alive in the current of your stillness. Your high sexual energy no longer explodes in every direction. It circulates inward, becoming self-contained power. And because you are no longer leaking energy for attention or approval, your field becomes magnetic. Not distracting, not flashy, magnetic. When a woman is near you now, her body may not know why it relaxes. Her mind may not immediately understand why she feels more herself, more calm, more awake in your presence. But her spirit knows. It knows you are not a threat. It knows you are not pretending. It knows you are not chasing something externally because you've already claimed something internally. You're not demanding her attention. You are simply making space for it to land, if and when it chooses to. This power of presence manifests in every detail of how you move. You don't fidget to fill silence. You sit in it. You let it breathe. You don't rush to speak or interrupt. You let others reveal themselves, knowing you are whole enough not to make every moment about you. And this stillness doesn't make you passive. It makes you dangerous in the most beautiful way. Because the world is not used to a man who can sit in power without needing to control. Women feel this, chosen one. It gives them something they didn't know they needed, permission to soften. Not because they are less powerful, but because they no longer have to protect themselves from you. They don't have to guess your motives. They don't have to anticipate manipulation. Your presence is clean, sacred, a frequency that does not take, it invites. And here is the truth few understand. The most powerful men don't dominate. They stabilize, and that is what you've become. A stable field of pure presence, one that doesn't collapse under pressure, one that doesn't retreat in discomfort, one that allows others, especially women, to arrive more fully in themselves simply because you've arrived fully in yourself. You don't try to be appealing anymore. You are, without effort. Because your presence is not a performance. It is the most honest part of your soul, now sitting fully in its own throne. Chosen one, with presence comes something even more sacred. Connection. Not the fleeting kind built on compliments and surface attraction, but the rare, soul-level kind that moves without needing explanation. And now, with your high sexual energy in full alignment with your authenticity, you've stepped into a deeper, more resonant dance with the feminine. A dance of energy, a dance of attention, a dance of truth. And your role in it has completely changed. You used to reach outward, hoping to be chosen. Now your energy draws others inward, not by request, but by invitation. Women don't just see you, they sense the possibility in your presence. Possibility for laughter without expectation, for intimacy without demand, for conversation that doesn't reduce them to a performance or a conquest. And because you bring that possibility with your energy alone, the connection begins before a single word is spoken. You are no longer chasing connection. You are choosing it, consciously, selectively. You've realized that not every interaction deserves the fullness of your presence. Not because you are arrogant, but because you are aware of your value. Your attention has become a sacred currency, and when you offer it to someone, especially a woman, it is felt with reverence. Because it is real, because it is rare, because it has weight. When you look at her now, she feels seen, not dissected, not stripped down to surface details. Seen as a human, as a being, as energy. When you speak to her, she feels heard, not analyzed, not managed, heard, as in felt. When you touch her, even if it's only through eye contact, it's no longer an invitation to something shallow. It's an invitation to slow down, to be present, to feel what's real in the moment. You are leading the dance now, not with force but with clarity. You are not moving based on reaction. You are moving with intention, and your energy creates a rhythm that women want to move with. They feel more beautiful around you, not because you flatter them, but because your energy mirrors back their worth. They feel more feminine, not because you tell them to be, but because your grounded masculine energy holds space for their softness to rise. This is what real connection feels like. No games, no performance, no rush, just two people, two energies meeting in truth. And when this happens, something ancient and holy awakens, and it is felt in every word, every breath, every pause. You are no longer part of the noise. You are now part of the rhythm beneath it all. You don't need tactics anymore, chosen one. You are the invitation to depth, and connection flows to you now because you've stopped asking for it. You've become worthy of it. Chosen one, you are beginning to feel something profound ripple through your life. It moves silently, without announcement, but it lingers. It stays. It echoes. You've become a man who no longer just touches the moment, you affect it. You're not leaving footprints anymore. You're leaving vibrations. Your high sexual energy, once scattered and aimless, now moves with such depth and clarity that it creates lasting impressions on every woman you meet. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy stays long after you've gone. You are no longer remembered for the things you say, or the way you dress, or the cleverness of your words. You are remembered for the way someone felt when they stood near you, for the way their heart beat differently in your presence, for the way your gaze made them forget the walls they'd spent years building. This is the quiet influence that only few ever master. And now, you are walking in it. This is not about being followed or worshipped. It is not about being adored or praised. It's about the way your authenticity alters the atmosphere. A woman speaks with you and something in her shifts, not because you tried to change her, but because your truth doesn't allow space for pretenses to survive. She walks away and finds herself thinking about the way you looked at her. Not hungrily, not nervously, but directly. Like you weren't afraid of what she carried inside. And that's the real influence, chosen one. It's not that you're trying to leave a mark, it's that your presence already does. Because it comes from somewhere deeper than attention seeking. It comes from awareness, from mastery, from stillness. You've spent time with yourself. You've been through the shadows of your own soul and returned with light. That light doesn't shine in a blinding way. It glows, it warms, it reflects. And when women feel it, they don't want to run, they want to stay. But you don't need them to stay. That's the other piece of your power. You're not gripping. You're not begging to be remembered. You're not desperate to be unforgettable. And that very detachment is what makes your influence so unforgettable. You give people the space to walk away, and yet somehow you go with them. Not in body, not in words, but in resonance. Because you've chosen to live in your truth so completely that it cannot be silenced, even in your absence. You are the conversation that continues even after the door has closed, the thought that returns in moments of silence, the energy that reappears in dreams, not because you cast a spell, but because your frequency could not be dismissed. You are no longer the man trying to impress. You have become the man they compare everything else to. And you did it without trying. You did it simply by becoming your truest self. Chosen one, now that your influence is no longer accidental, now that your energy leaves marks without motion, the question becomes, what are you doing with it? Because high sexual energy in the hands of a man without purpose is a weapon. But in the hands of a man with harmony between his power and his intentions, it becomes a blessing. And this harmony is now unfolding in you like an ancient song, remembered note by note. You are no longer driven by shallow desire. You are guided by deep intention. You do not approach women simply to indulge the animal within you. You approach from the soul, from a place of mutual recognition, mutual elevation, mutual truth. That is what makes you powerful now. Not just the energy you carry, but the direction you move with. You no longer leak your essence for short-term satisfaction. You invest it only where truth can grow. This harmony between energy and intention changes everything. It shapes how you speak. You no longer talk to impress. You speak to connect. You don't just touch for contact. You touch for honor. You don't show up to be desired. You show up to witness. And in that witness, you offer women something most have never felt from a man. Pure presence, free of manipulation. Your appeal no longer intoxicates and fades. It awakens and deepens. You've become more selective now. Not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You know the weight of your energy. You know the way it lands, the way it opens hearts, the way it stirs emotions. And because of that, you protect your essence. You no longer offer it to those who would mishandle it. You don't seduce the unready. You don't perform for the unworthy. You live in your truth and let your vibration sort the real from the illusion. That discernment is your compass. And women feel it. They sense that your interest isn't shallow, that your desire isn't careless, that your presence isn't performative. They feel the sacred tension in your being, masculine desire guided by spiritual awareness. They feel you wanting without needing. They feel you inviting without insisting. They feel you available but not attached. And that chosen one is what separates you from all the rest. This harmony of intention makes you irresistible, not just because of how you make women feel, but because of how you see them. Your gaze doesn't try to extract, it tries to understand. Your energy doesn't try to consume, it tries to merge if the resonance is true. And if it's not, you bless and walk away, without shame, without blame, because your power is no longer hungry, it is wise. You are no longer just appealing, you are intentional magnetism made real. And every woman who meets you now doesn't just feel attraction, she feels alignment. Because you've become a man who no longer chases the experience, you embody the meaning behind it. Chosen one, as you deepen into the mastery of your energy, something ancient and rare begins to unfold through you. Not in action, but in reception. Not in how well you speak, but in how deeply you listen. And this, though often overlooked, is one of the most magnetic expressions of your high sexual energy. Your ability to hold space and stillness. Your coolness now moves not through how you dominate a conversation, but through how you disarm it. You don't listen to respond. You listen to witness. And women, perhaps for the first time, feel it. You've come to understand that the most powerful moments in connection are not created when you're trying to impress someone. They are created when you allow someone to be fully seen, fully expressed, and unjudged in your presence. And your energy, now balanced and whole, gives people that permission effortlessly. It's not just your words that matter anymore. It's your breath, your silence, your unflinching attention. When a woman speaks to you now, she feels your stillness like a mirror with depth. She senses that you are not scanning her words to find your angle. You're not waiting for your turn to speak. You're there, fully, without distraction, without agenda. And this devotion to the moment causes something unexpected to rise in her. A softness, an honesty, a sudden desire to say more than she's used to. Because when someone finally feels safe to speak without being managed or judged, what comes out of them is not just words, it's truth, it's release. And you, chosen one, have become a portal for that release. This is not passive listening. This is sacred reception. You are no longer rushing connection. You're inviting depth to arrive on its own terms. And when it does, you don't flinch. You hold it, you welcome it, you contain it, not with force, but with grounded presence. You are no longer afraid of rawness. In fact, you seek it. Not because it entertains you, but because it reveals something real. This is what makes you stand out now. You don't try to steal the spotlight in every interaction. You become the light around which others naturally unfold. And women feel it. They feel the space your listening creates, and it allows them to let go of performance, of protection, of fear. They feel no pressure to be interesting, to be funny, to be perfect. They feel like they can simply be, and that being is enough to hold your attention. Because you're no longer chasing novelty, you're chasing truth. And your listening becomes the gateway through which real connection flows. It is through your silence that others discover their own voice. It is through your stillness that others begin to trust movement again. And it is through your devotion to the present that others feel seen in a way they never have. You are no longer listening to get somewhere. You are listening because you are already there. And that grounded receptivity is now one of the most powerful forms of your appeal. Chosen one, something profound is happening every time a woman looks into your eyes now. She no longer just sees a man, she sees depth, a quiet, ageless, deliberate kind of depth. Not manufactured, not rehearsed, not fragile, earned, lived into, owned. And that depth doesn't just fascinate her, it unlocks something in her. It reflects a part of herself she had nearly forgotten existed. Because that's what true depth does. It doesn't dazzle, it doesn't seduce. It reminds, it reaches beyond the mask and speaks directly to the soul. And your high sexual energy, now completely infused with your emotional clarity, has turned you into a mirror of what is possible. You are no longer attractive just because of what you carry. You are attractive because of what others see in themselves through you. And that chosen one is a spiritual force. Women are not used to being met with this kind of presence. They are not used to their depth being recognized, welcomed, and mirrored back to them. Most interactions skim the surface. But with you, it's different. With you, they don't feel flirted with, they feel seen into. And it's not invasive, it's inviting. Because your energy doesn't reach into them and take, it opens a door and waits for them to step through. And when they do, when they speak from their heart, when they show a side of themselves rarely shared, they don't feel exposed, they feel held. Because you don't react with judgment, you receive with reverence. And that reverence is the result of everything you've built within yourself. Your emotional resilience, your spiritual grounding, your inner silence. You've turned your high sexual energy into a well of honest presence, and now others can drink from it and feel nourished. This depth is not a product of pain. It is the alchemy of pain transformed into peace. You've taken the confusion, the loss, the restlessness of your earlier years and forged something eternal, something immovable. And now, women come near you and feel like they've stepped out of time. Conversations with you don't feel transactional, they feel transformational, like something changed, not because of what you gave, but because of what you reflected. You are no longer merely appealing. You are now awakening something sacred in others, and the deeper you go within yourself, the more they will want to meet you there. Because you've become the rare man who does not fear the soul. You've become the one who lives from it, speaks from it, connects through it. And the world, especially the feminine, cannot help but respond to that level of truth. Your depth is now your presence is now your reflection. And your reflection, chosen one, is what turns attraction into transformation. Chosen one, the level of awareness you've reached has brought you into a higher state of control. Not control in the sense of rigidity or tension, but harmony. You are learning to calibrate your energy like a master musician tuning an instrument. Not too sharp, not too dull. You've stopped flooding every room with force, and instead you tailor your presence to the frequency of the moment. That, more than anything, is what sets you apart. You are no longer wasting your high sexual energy in random directions, hoping something or someone will mirror it back. You are aiming it, focusing it, sensing what each situation requires and adjusting accordingly. Not by shrinking, but by becoming precise. Sometimes you are the fire that warms the entire room. Other times you are the silent candle in the corner that changes everything by simply being lit. This ability to adjust without compromising your essence is the mark of someone who has matured into true spiritual power. And women feel this instantly. They feel your ability to read the room, not with social tricks, but with spiritual intelligence. They notice how you don't dominate every conversation just because you can. They see how you don't push your energy onto those who aren't prepared to hold it. They sense your restraint, and they respect it. Because it shows them you are not desperate to prove anything. You are tuned. This calibration is not a tactic. It is an extension of your self-awareness. You know the value of your attention. You know the gravity of your gaze. You know that when you speak, people listen, not because you speak often, but because you speak with weight. And so you do not scatter your energy across every interaction. You concentrate it, and that concentrated energy makes you undeniable. Now you are the man who can shift from humor to silence without fear of losing attention. You can walk away from shallow dynamics without bitterness. You can move through a crowd without trying to be noticed. because your calibrated energy does all the work for you. You are no longer a man trying to prove his worth. You are a man who has already accepted it. This mastery also means you know how to receive. You are not just an emitter of attraction, you are a conduit for deep connection. You know when to hold space, when to draw near, when to walk away. And all of these decisions are made not from insecurity, but from intuition, because you have become sensitive to your own rhythm, and through that rhythm, others find their own. This is not control out of fear, this is command through clarity. You no longer let your energy spill in unmeasured directions. You hold it like a sculptor holds a chisel, ready to shape every interaction with meaning and depth. And because of that, chosen one, you are no longer just attractive. You are irreplaceable. Chosen one, by now you must feel it. You are not just moving through life, you are shaping it. Every step you take leaves behind a trail, not of noise, but of energy. You are no longer remembered for what you did or what you said. You are remembered for the way you made people feel. And in particular, women don't just remember your presence, they measure others by it. This is the quiet legacy you are leaving behind, the unseen imprint, the invisible standard. You've become the man who causes others to realize what's been missing in every shallow interaction they've ever had. Not because you made them feel special, but because you made them feel safe. You made them feel alive. You made them feel like being seen wasn't something they had to earn, but something they were worthy of the moment they arrived. You are not building this legacy through loudness or attention. You are building it through alignment, through integrity, through the way your words match your actions, through the way your presence doesn't just appeal, it invites transformation. Your high sexual energy has now become something sacred. It's no longer just attractive, it's activating. It causes people to confront their truth. It awakens clarity. It initiates softness. Women who once had to guard themselves now soften in your presence. Not because they are weak, but because you are strong enough to hold their openness without exploiting it. They don't open because you ask them to. They open because you've given them something real to open into. And when they leave your presence, they don't forget it. They carry it with them. They remember the safety, the steadiness, the stillness, the intensity without aggression. And whether they speak it aloud or not, they miss it. Because men like you are rare. Your legacy is not about how many people know your name. It's about how many people remember the feeling of sitting across from you and feeling truly seen. You are the one who stayed calm in chaos, who stayed grounded in beauty, who stayed kind even in silence. You have turned your high sexual energy into spiritual gravity. You don't chase connection, you anchor it. This is your legacy, chosen one. Not a trail of women who desired you, but a field of souls who remembered themselves through you. You don't need applause. Your existence is the confirmation. You've become the man who doesn't just attract love, you amplify it. And in doing so, you've become a living embodiment of something rare, something sacred, something unforgettable. Chosen one, this final chapter is not an ending. It is a revelation. A slow, burning understanding that your entire journey, your hardship, your confusion, your searching, your self-questioning, it has all led you here. Not just to be accepted, not just to be wanted, but to be recognized as something far deeper, a sacred masculine presence. And in the eyes of women, you are no longer just appealing. You are rare. They don't just see your strength, they see the meaning behind it. They don't just admire your confidence, they sense the silence it was forged in. You have become the embodiment of something ancient and future-bound all at once, something they've been longing for but could never name. And now that it stands before them, in you, they don't want to let it go. This is not about perfection, it's about wholeness. It's about the way your high sexual energy, once wild and uncertain, now flows through you like a blessing. A fire that warms but doesn't burn. A river that touches but doesn't flood. It lives in your breath. It lives in your posture. It lives in your ability to hold without gripping. And in your holding, you offer something priceless. Witnessing. You are no longer the man who needs to be chosen. You are the man who sees. And your seeing is so profound, so sincere, so rooted in presence, that it transforms whoever stands in front of you. Not because you tried, but because your energy has now become transformational. Women no longer fantasize about you. They feel safe to be fully present with you because you've become a container that doesn't crush, a mirror that doesn't distort, a flame that doesn't consume. You are no longer chasing the feminine. You've become the field where the feminine remembers her divinity. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this revelation is that you've let go of needing to be anything. You've returned to being everything you already were, but now, aligned, integrated, awake. That's why your energy no longer rises and falls based on who notices you. It stays consistent, solid, vibrant, because it's no longer fed by approval, it's fed by truth. You've become a standard that can't be faked, a presence that can't be copied.